Vernon Hills Village Board meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Time.
Here.
Trustee Takaoka. President Byrne. Trustee Brown.
Here.
Trustee Schultz.
Here.
Trustee Marquardt.
Here.
Trustee Cook.
Here.
We have a quorum, and we need a motion to appoint a president pro tem.
Mr. Clerk, at this time, I'd like to nominate Trustee Cook to be President Pro Tem for the remainder of this Village Board meeting.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
What's the famous line? Thanks, I think. Thanks. All right, we have a quorum. The meeting's been called to order. Could everyone please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Are there any citizens that wish to address the board on something other than what's on committee of the whole? Because you'll get to talk about it at that time. None? Okay. Then the first thing is a list of proclamations for Eagle Scouts. Yeah, so we're going to do them one at a time unless you guys want to come up as a group, or do you want to come up individually as we call you up? I'll leave it up to you guys.
You have one missing, I know that, correct? Yes. And who might, well, I'll state it, who might that be?
Okay.
If there's any parents or relatives, whatever, that want to take photos and stand behind me or
come right
wherever,
behind.
you're more than welcome.
Either,
Okay. First one I have up is Matt. Is it Mangoni? Yep. Did I get it right? Yep. Because I want to make sure I get your last name right, because with a last name spelled K-O-C-H, mine gets pronounced a lot of ways, other than Cook. The rank of Eagle Scout is the highest honor bestowed by Boy Scouts and stands for the ultimate representation of citizenship and good character. Matt's Eagle Scout project was an outdoor beautification project for Christ Lutheran Church. Matt received his Eagle Scout rank in a court of honor in 2018 with recognition of his personal dedication and extraordinary achievement. Now, therefore, Roger L. Byrne and the Board of Trustees proclaim that Matt Mangoni be congratulated and honored for earning the rank of Eagle Scout, dated this 21st day of May, 2019. Matt? Congratulations. Thank you, Matt. And feel free to say something if you'd like.
yes, if you care to, you can approach the altar and say anything.
Ooh, this is so fancy. It's been a long journey. I started Scouts in first grade, I think. Yeah, first grade. And I graduated from Wonderland High School on Mother's Day, so it's been a long, treacherous journey. I worked at Camp Makajuan, the Boy Scout camp for here, Northeast Illinois Council. This is my third year working there. And yeah, it's a great camp. If you ever go to visit, beautiful place. Not a promo or anything, but kind of a promo. And yeah, that's.
How many merit badges do you have?
Ooh, so I hold the rank in my troop for the most merit badges any scout has received. I beat my brother about 6 merit badges. He held the rank before me. As any sibling revenue do, I have, I think, a total of 81 merit badges on 2 different sashes. So yeah, ranging.
Amazing.
There are 24 required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many can you get?
You can get, so the minimum is, I think, 24, 21, something like that. Then the maximum you can get is all of them. I think there's like 150-ish something merit badges. So, a little over halfway.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Chase Johnson is a Life Boy Scout. The rank of Eagle is the highest honor to be bestowed by the Boy Scouts and stands for the ultimate representation of citizenship and good character. Chase's Eagle Scout project was repairing and resurfacing trails at the Arbor Theater. Chase received his Eagle Scout rank in the Court of Honor in 2018 with recognition of his personal dedication and extraordinary achievement. Now, therefore, Roger L. Byrne, President and the Board of Trustees, Village of Vernon Hills, hereby proclaim that Chase Johnson be congratulated and honored for earning the rank of Eagle Scout this 21st day of May, 2019.
Thank you. I'm not exactly a talker, so thank you.
My man.
Robert Black is a Life Boy Scout, and the rank of Eagle Scout is the highest honor to be bestowed by the Boy Scouts, stands for ultimate representation of citizenship and good character. Robert's Eagle Scout project was building an outdoor meeting area at Fremont Elementary School, which included construction of a pergola table area. Robert received his Eagle Scout rank in a Court of Honor in 2018 in recognition of his personal dedication and extraordinary achievement. Therefore, Roger L. Byrne, President and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Vernon Hills, hereby proclaim that Robert Black be congratulated and honored for earning the rank of Eagle Scout this 21st day of May 2019. Congrats.
I think Matt covered everything.
Good.
Andrew, is it Garrett? Yeah. Okay. Again, the rank of Eagle Scout is the highest honor to be bestowed by the Boy Scouts and stands for the ultimate representation of citizenship and good character. Andrew's Eagle Scout project was a cleanup and reorganization of a patio area at Christ Lutheran Church, including construction of a storage shed. And Andrew received his Eagle Scout rank in a Court of Honor in 2018 with recognition of his personal dedication and extraordinary achievement. Therefore, Roger L. Byrne, President and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Vernon Hills, hereby proclaim that Andrew Garrett is to be congratulated and honored for earning the rank of Eagle Scout this 21st day of May, 2019. Is it Stephen Pastar?
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, you can if you wish.
You can.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm sure some of these parents would vouch that you're not all that shy.
So it's Stephen, right, and Pastar? Okay. Stephen Pastar is a Life Boy Scout. The rank of Eagle Scout is the highest honor to be bestowed by the Boy Scouts and stands for the ultimate representation of citizenship and good character. Stephen's Eagle Scout project was helping to restart the music program at Gavin South Middle School in Ingleside, whose music program had been cut by collecting, cleaning, delivering donated musical instruments. Stephen received his Eagle Scout rank in the Court of Honor in 2018 with recognition of his personal dedication and extraordinary achievement. Therefore, Roger L. Byrne, President and the Board of Trustees, Village of Vernon Hills, hereby proclaim that Stephen Pastar be congratulated and honored for earning the rank of Eagle Scout this 21st day of May, 2019. Okay.
Would you like to say anything? Oh, you,
This fine gentleman over here just covered it about right.
Great.
Are you a musician? Yes. So that was why the affinity for that. Good job. Nathan Stuck? The rank of Eagle Scout is the highest honor to be bestowed by the Boy Scouts and stands for the ultimate representation of citizenship and good character. Nathan's Eagle Scout project was organizing an underutilized storage room at Christ Lutheran Church, identifying stored items to be donated or sold on behalf of the church. Nathan recruited 14 volunteers and used CAD software to develop customized storage shelving to maximize the storage space. Nathan received his Eagle Scout rank in the Court of Honor in 2018 with recognition of his personal dedication and extraordinary achievement. Therefore, Roger L. Byrne, President of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Vernon Hills, hereby proclaim that Nathan Stuck be congratulated and honored for earning the rank of Eagle Scout this 21st day of May, 2019. Yeah, not to leave John Rallo out, even though he's not here. John's Eagle Scout project was organizing a collection drive of toiletries for pads of Lake County to be distributed to the homeless. And he also received his Eagle Scout rank at the Court of Honor in 2018. And he is also being hereby proclaimed that John Rallo be congratulated for the honor of earning the rank of Eagle Scout. So I will give this to And would you like to say something as their scoutmaster? Here, you can take John's. That's John's. I'll let you. Yeah, as their scoutmaster, I figured you might want to. And if you could identify yourself too, please.
Certainly. My name is Mike Mangoni. I'm the Scoutmaster for Troop 273. It has been my honor and privilege to guide these fine young gentlemen the rigors of Eagle Scout. Each one has their own path, and it's been a joy to watch them help themselves, their families, and including the village as well, because they've done a lot of stuff with the village. I just real quick to say, Stephen is graduating this year. Stephen, you're going where?
Duquesne University.
He's going to Duquesne University. Matt, you graduate.
West Virginia University.
Nathan, you graduated last year, and you are studying to be a.
Electrician.
You're studying to be an electrician. Drew?
Central College.
He's going to North Central College.
Rice University.
Bobby's going to Rice University, and sir, you're going to graduate next year. In November, actually, I am stepping down as Scoutmaster, and I have had the privilege of 7 years of wonderful adventures. So, I thank you very much for recognizing our Scouts.
Congratulations to you for your time put in.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations, gentlemen. That's once again a prime example of the fact that the youth of this country is not as bad as the press makes it out sometimes. No, I'm serious. I've been in education a long time, and I keep getting asked that question. This is the perfect example. Okay. Next item. Introduction and presentation of the new Finance and Treasurer's Report.
I'm going to make a brief introduction of basically of the new format and the new resource that we have to help Ann manage the village's finances. And that resource is Ed McKee, who I've known for a lot of years. He was the finance director of Northfield, Rolling Meadows, Winnetka. Since leaving Winnetka in 2015, he's been interim finance director in Libertyville, Wakanda, Morton Grove, and now he's with Lauterbach and Ramen, and I'm just really pleased with the fact that he's one of the greats in the profession, and that he'll be an important resource for Ann in the management of the finance department. He's been working on several projects for us, and one of the projects has been to take the data that you've been getting for years and put it in a more digestible format. I think he's done a really impressive job, and the report he's going to present is on the consent agenda, but I thought at this point I'd ask Ed to a new format.
Thank you, Larry. You're very kind. Larry and I have known each other since '84. We both started at about the same time as finance director. So we always stayed in touch, and I always appreciated what a professional he was. And so it's nice to be able to work with him here and do some new things for Vernon Hills. So we've got a new report here, and what I've tried to do is I've tried to pick data that I would want to see as a board member and pull it up into the transmittal letter, so you don't have to go hunting through the different pages of the report. We still have the detail here, so we're not hiding anything. It's at the back of the agenda today, pages 75 through 137. But we've tried to summarize the data we think you'd be interested in and put it up in the front and make it easy for you, which is our goal. If you have thoughts on additional items you'd like to have us add at some point in the future, feel free to contact Ann or Larry, myself, the manager. We'd be happy to tweak this. It's not a final product that we can't change going forward. Let's see, there we go. Here's the first page of the report. And so what I've done here is we've pulled together all the different funds, and we show the cash balance at the beginning of the month, activity during the month, the balance at the end of the month, and then a note off to the right if there's something that would cause us concern as a staff. We'd like to highlight it here and suggest some steps that could be taken going forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill down into this a little bit more and just focus on the top part, the general fund and sub-funds. We look at the general fund and the infrastructure development fund as one, and in fact we'll be transferring money from the general fund to get rid of the shortfall in the infrastructure development fund. That's more just an accounting thing. We keep track of our infrastructure costs in that account, and we just need to transfer periodically that out of the general fund, and at the end of this year that'd be a good time to do that and zero that out. So we'll be doing that in April. So we started the month of March with about $29.0 million, and we ended at $29.99 million at the end of the first two accounts. Then we have a couple of additional areas here. We've got the summer celebration, which is a separate function, and we track that over time. That's something you could eliminate that deficit balance if you wanted to at some point, but I assume the board is keeping that to keep a cumulative cost for that. Once the event takes place, you'll have more money in, and that balance should be better. Metro parking is typically something that's segregated in municipalities. And then the last two are specific to the police. They're very restrictive in terms of what those items can be used for, and setting them up in this manner gives you excellent accountability, and any expenses coming out of there follow your normal operating procedures, so you have plenty of checks and balances there. And then these are your remaining funds with, again, the same format. The bigger funds being the motor fuel tax, about $1.38 million. We've got the Melody Farms TIF account, which is 1.7, and there will be a payment coming out of there in April. It's noted in the transmittal letter. Telecommunications tax fund, and then your equipment replacement fund of about $1.5 million. This is what page 2 of the report looks like, and again we'll drill into the detail here. This is the revenues in the general fund in thousands of dollars, and I've excluded the sub-funds. So starting at the left, I define the revenue item. The next column is the actual receipts for the month. The next column is the projections that the staff had made as to what we thought those dollars would be ahead of time. Then we get a percentage of actual versus the projected. And then the next group of 3 columns is the year-to-date, so that would be 11 months of data. And the far right column is your revised annual budget. So in terms of how are we tracking on the revenue side, things are going well. We're running pretty much at or above budget in almost all areas. I do note in the transmittal letter as well as the footnotes that the home rule sales tax number for the current month is kind of an anomaly. It's a catch-up adjustment. In the future will be closer to the staff's projection of about $300,000 per month. This is a chart that's been maintained in the past, and we've included it here also. It's a trailing 12-month graph of the 1% village sales tax amount. Sales tax is a very important revenue for the village. I don't need to tell you that, but for the benefit of those watching on TV. And this shows an upward trend and some of the gyrations in that over time. So again, we've got an upward trend, which is good, and has been very strong here since June of last year, or 2 years ago. We're starting an upward trend there. This is page 4 of the report, and I'll drill into the charts with on the next page here so you don't have to strain your eyes too much. This is a cumulative amount of sales tax for the first 11 months for each of the last 8 years. And so here, again, you can see some of the differences. We had 2012 through 15, we had kind of an upward trend. We had a little bit of a dip, which is also reflected on the other chart. And then currently in 2019, we're running really strong on the sales tax. And this, again, is net of any rebates that we have. Here are some of the other significant revenues for the general fund. And again, they're all running pretty strong. I'm not overly concerned about the dip in the community development. Those are a function of what's going on in the community in terms of redevelopment. We're still going to be hitting our budget in that area. And then the telecom tax, that seems to be a common issue with municipalities. That revenue just is not growing like we would hope it would. And maybe it's a function of things going over the internet versus traditional medium. And this is the last page of the report, page 5. I wanted to go through the detail and pull up all of the different departments or areas of responsibility and, again, put those all in one chart here so it's easy for you to kind of get a sense of the bottom line. Expenditures are tracking well below budget in most areas. We do have some contingencies and transfers that are going to occur at the end of the year, but we should be well within the budget that was adopted by the board. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on the report. And again, if you have any feedback tonight or at a later time, we'd be happy to get that from you.
Any questions or comments from the board? Or staff?
Not at this time.
Okay,
Thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Else has a speaking part tonight? We're moving right to omnibus. Is that correct?
Omnibus, yes, I'll make
Okay.
a motion to approve items A through S on the omnibus agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion is second. Any questions on any of the items? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka? Trustee Byrne? President Byrne?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, unfinished additional business. Chris Manley, General Manager of Advanced Disposal.
Good evening. I'm Chris Manley. I'm from Advanced Disposal. I'm the general manager out of our Waukegan location. And tonight I have with me Eddie Diaz, who is a route manager here for the drivers that helps provide the service here in Vernon Hills. A couple things I wanted to, first off, thank you for allowing me to come in and talk to you this evening. There's a couple things I want to talk about tonight. There's 5 topics on here, some more local and a couple issues more national that I want to touch on real quick, and then we'll open it up for just questions and answers if we've got time for that then. But first off, I want to talk about the truck maintenance real quick. We've had some issues, an uptick in the amount of complaints from the Vernon Hills residents recently. Leaks in the street, some of the cul-de-sacs. Our route manager, Eddie Diaz, was sent out to identify those right away. He did. There was 2 trucks that were immediately removed from the village, sent in for further inspection and repair. Probably within about 12 to 14, we had two more trucks moved up from our North Carolina division out there, 2 new trucks to help us make sure that we can still provide the level of service that's expected by the village residents. In addition to that, we've still got another 2 trucks coming this year, another rear load truck, residential truck, and then another brand new commercial truck coming for the commercial business owners here. In addition to that, we've got 3 more trucks that I've requested for capital for next year. A total of about $2 million worth of capital investment between what's left this year and next year. You know, we do recognize the fact that some of our trucks, we do run some 2016s out here. Those are the newest ones currently before these ones were moved up. But even that, you know, we still have some trucks out here that are, you know, 2010s, 2012s. Those are getting garbage trucks running at 10 to 12 hours a day, taking the beating that they take. They get old rather fast, you know. So if a car's a 2012, you're thinking it's still new. By then, a garbage truck's getting rather old, so you have to look at starting to replace them. Moving on to the misses, I wanted to talk about just really quickly about what our hot stop list. Every fall, unfortunately, we have to lay off a couple drivers. The yard waste season is a seasonal job, and those people go away. Some of those people find full, they don't come back in the spring. So every spring, we end up having to replace some of our seasonal employees. They go through some in-class training for a couple days, then they'll spend a couple weeks with the veteran drivers here out on the street, a minimum of 2 weeks with those drivers, trying to familiarize themselves with the neighborhoods and the areas that they'll be servicing. Beyond that, Eddie also provides the guys with route maps, and then he's, like I said, he's out here, especially on Mondays and Tuesdays. He spends quite a bit of time out here. So in the spring, especially when yard waste starts, we do get an uptick in phone calls from residents. You know, my cul-de-sac was missed, or maybe it's a house that faces this way, but the garage is over here, and my yard waste was missed. We have what we call a hot stop list, and customers who call repeatedly will go on that list. And that list requires the driver to go through some extra steps each week as he's out on the route. As he gets to the address, I was at the address at this time, on this date. The stop was either out or it was not out, and then he turns that back in at the end of the night. Eddie keeps those addresses on that list until he feels comfortable that if it's a new driver, that the issue's been resolved and now they understand that the stop's not here, it's here, or if it's in an alley or whatever the case may be. But we leave them on there for an extended period of time to make sure that the resident has been taken care of. Beyond that, we've also had a recent issue that's been identified, a Bay Tree Association billing issue. And what happened with the Bay Tree issue is that Bay Tree became an Onyx Waste. Onyx was, Advanced Disposal was previously Onyx Waste Services years ago in 2005. Bay Tree was a direct customer to Onyx Waste Services. They signed them up, a contract I believe was March of 2005. In May of 2005, the Village of Vernon Hills contracted directly with Onyx Waste Services. Somewhere in 2005, Bay Tree came on board with the city as part of the city contract. So what happened was that Bay Tree was paying a separate rate from the new city negotiated contract, village contract, I'm sorry. So Onyx Waste went ahead and changed the rates for Bay Tree to match what was negotiated for the village. But at the time, fuel and environmental fees, which is pretty common, those fees are normal for commercial, industrial, residential customers who are not a part of a municipality. Normally, those types of fees, service fees, those things are negotiated out during a negotiation with a village or city. So the rates were changed, the box for the fees was not. So for the past several years, Bay Tree has been paying the fuel charge or fee on top of their monthly rate.
Several or 14?
14 years.
Thank you.
That is, that to the tune of about 30, what we've come up with so far is $32,666. There has been, we're doing everything we can to find out exactly how much that, the dollar amount is, and then there'll be a check cut right back to Bay Tree for that amount. Or, can we get a couple free months of service kind of as a, in lieu of like an interest on that in order to kind of make amends there. And again, that's obviously no problem. I think the important thing to us, and we would like you guys to understand, is that regardless of what the issue is, we'd like to think that we respond in an appropriate time frame. And again, we're still trying to find, we've got it dialed all the way back into 2007. We're looking into corporate archives. We don't have, our systems don't go back locally far enough. So we're asking our corporation to help us find out those last 2 years. And if we can't get that from either our corporate office or from Bay Tree themselves, we'll come up with something for those last 2 years that they'll find satisfactory, and we'll cut that check to them and make amends there. The next topic, real quick, I wanted to touch on was over the past several months, residents and village staff have inquired about the possibility of adding both electronics recycling and food composting services in the city of Vernon Hills. This talk's been going on and off, a lot of interest being shown over the last year. This past fall, we did add our first 2 contracts. The city of Northbrook added a food composting program, an electronics program, I believe it was like October, November. And the city of Wilmette has also just added one. We are now providing those types of staff to see what makes sense for the village here. What is the interest from the residents? How serious are they about it? But we do offer those services now. We'll continue to work with them on that, and I'm sure they'll keep you abreast of where that goes. And then the last topic here is just the potential purchase of advanced disposal by Waste Management. Obviously, there was some communication that came out publicly several weeks ago. Advanced Disposal has entered into a merger agreement to be acquired by Waste Management. And we've gotten several inquiries from residents, from staff here, from other cities. So we know, what does that mean to us? What does it mean with our contract? Our contracts are all in place as written, regardless of what happens on the road. There's no change in any services that they may offer that we don't, or vice versa. The contracts are the contracts. We are still, at this point, we are still 2 totally separate companies. We bid against Waste Management every day on commercial business, industrial business, municipalities. We are run totally separate from one another until down the road there may be another public statement made by the company now reached this point in this acquisition, if at all. I saw there was an email sent out by John Petrillo talking about with Swelco some of the hoops that have to be kind of gone through before this thing is finalized. And part of that is going before the Department of Justice and having them look at the service areas of both companies to make sure that there's not too much work there between the 2 companies. That's all. That's the topics. If there's any other ones that you'd like to talk about real quick, but I kind of want to open it up now to questions and answers if you have any.
Anything from the board? Attorney Hunt?
Just a question. What is the annual charge that association pays?
That I don't know off the top of my head.
I was just wondering, you've got, there's an overcharge, and so they're clearly entitled to the money. Under Illinois law, prejudgment interest would run at 5% on that. Doing a quick calculation, that runs about a couple $100 a month just on simple interest. So I was just wondering if a couple months of free garbage service covers that, or whether that really ought to be in addition to, sort of as a penance for the fact that this was done in addition to paying them the back money plus interest.
This is, you're going to be writing a check to the Bay Tree HOA?
Yes.
That's who pays the bill right
I
now?
believe they've asked me to work with McGill Management.
Which is the management company then for Bay Tree. So
Yes.
basically, it's their, if they
Their
wish to
say.
pursue any additional remedies beyond whatever you guys come to an agreement with, that's, I'm just very happy that you're owning up to it and you're going back the full 14 years.
Okay.
I've got a question concerning, post office yell at you a lot?
The post office?
Yeah.
No.
Where I live, I'm on an eyebrow, which is, it's a semi cul-de-sac, and your guys wind up loading up a bunch of cans in front of my mailbox. And if I'm not around to move the cans back either into my garage or my neighbor usually isn't around, the mailman has to get around his truck and everything else. I'm just curious if there's been any dialogue between post office and you guys.
No, you're saying it's a cul-de-sac where the carts are left too close to the mailboxes?
Yeah, because they're all pie-shaped lots, so they all kind of come together, so to speak. So
Okay.
it's kind of problematic. I mean, there's going to be a mailbox that's affected. Some are, some aren't. Mine gets more affected than not. I mean, I'm just a point of curiosity more than anything else.
Okay.
Because you're impeding the post office, and that is a federal agency, blah,
Okay.
blah, blah.
Well, we can take a look at that.
Put it back into the driveway further. I don't know.
Okay. 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 Okay.
The other thing is, are you having any difficulties with, as we go through these street repairs? Do you see any issues there that affects you?
No, actually, we're on the village communication it must be from Public Works, I'm assuming, and we get, it seems like weekly updates as to where they're going, where they're moving next, and I share all that with Eddie, so the drivers are aware. On occasion, we will send the drivers out earlier than expected to try and beat the construction.
Okay.
So on that note, is there a standard time that the drivers go out to each street, or is it supposed to be the same time every day?
Yeah, we'd like the drivers to run their routes the exact same way. When someone's on vacation, sometimes there may be an adjustment to that. If a driver's late getting out of the yard, there can be an adjustment. But we normally don't want the drivers in town. The village has a 7 o'clock policy here, and we try to adhere to that. One of the complaints that we had gotten recently was that a driver was parked along the road. He had gotten here too early, and he was parking along the road next to some houses, and that created a complaint call. So we try to make sure that they don't get here too early.
One concern that I've run into on a couple of occasions is that when you call the phone number and you get somebody in the office, they don't necessarily have good information about the pickup service in an area. An example is that our homeowners association is one of the few places that has twice-a-week pickup. And I've several times gotten, no, there's no twice-a-week pickup in Vernon Hills.
Yeah.
And that kind of misinformation usually creates some problems in terms of trying to get them to follow up on stuff.
Right.
Is there any way to streamline that maybe, or?
We talk about that a lot. I want to say it was 4 years ago, we moved we used to have the call centers where at each one of our local sites, we have a combined consolidated call center now out of Batavia, Illinois. And we have had some of those complaints from multiple municipalities, just with the disinformation. Now you've got all of our contracts for all of Illinois in there, and that has been problematic for new people coming in to the call center, trying to get trained and up to speed on the various different contracts. I wish I could say that every contract gets every service, but there are so many different programs, that's where it comes into play. Some cities have all three services included. Some cities are sticker-based only, and there is no base rates. Some cities have stickers for this, but they have base rate for that. And that is that's been problematic to get people up to speed and to help get them educated on all the different variances to the contracts. We are aware of it, not just at the local level, but also at our district and region level as well, and they're working on that issue.
Okay. Any other board comments, concerns?
I just want to, my driver and Greg's on Tuesdays, he's awesome. Very courteous, very nice. I don't know his name, but he's great. So I just want to say that.
Thank you very much. That's one of the reasons that I think we extended the last contract. We get a lot of comments about the drivers. There's some drivers, Tyrone Taylor, Jared Garth. There's some drivers that have been out here for a very long time, and they really take a lot of pride in what they do. And every time, although we do get complaints about this or that, or a cart that gets knocked over, we do get compliments from residents as well. And we have a spot at the office where we'll post those up and we'll recognize those individuals, because a lot of times people aren't calling to tell you, hey, you've done a great job. So when that does happen, we like to make sure that we pat those drivers on the back and tell them, we appreciate what they're doing for us and the service that they're providing to you guys.
Well, in the spirit of that, I've had a number of conversations in that with Mr. Diaz, and he has been outstanding in terms of, taking care of the problem. The problem is that it's after the fact, but he's been absolutely outstanding in taking care of the problems that we've run into with our homeowners association. So, I mean, he's always been very quick to get back to me. The problem is taken care of very quickly. So yeah, there are some positives, and Mr. Diaz is one of them.
Thank you, yes, and we've talked with Eddie about that. Some of the staff members have also shared that same thing. If something does come up, Eddie's very quick to respond, and we do appreciate that out of him as well.
Assistant Village Manager Petrillo?
Sure. So can you talk for like a couple minutes about what you shared with us, how you would envision if Waste Management does end up acquiring Advance, how is that going to work for us? How is it going to work for the residents? Is it going to be the same drivers? Do you see it being same management? Where are the changes going to be seen by us?
I wouldn't think that there's a lot of different levels that you can change and you can kind of merge people in. When it comes to management levels, you can do that. You can merge district and region and corporations and stuff like that. But at the street level with the drivers, there's only so much that a driver can do in one day. These drivers do anywhere from 700 to 1,000 stops per day. So if you have waste management drivers right now doing that, they're full. And if our drivers are doing that, they're full. So there's really, at the street level, you don't really see much of a difference because we all run drivers 10, 11 hours a day. So it's not like we can just say, well, you know what, you're close enough, do these extra 700 homes. You can't do it. So I don't anticipate at the street level you seeing any change whatsoever other than the names on the uniforms.
Thank you.
I would also, again, they've got a location in Wheeling. We've got one in Northbrook. They've got one in Antioch. We've got one in Waukegan. I don't know that any of those facilities are large enough to take, another 70 trucks and just put them in those parking lots. So I'm not even sure that they can merge all of these facilities without selling off some assets and maybe building larger facilities. Because I think every one of their facilities is at least the size of ours, if not larger.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming, because it's, at this level of government, if your street gets plowed, the garbage gets picked up, and the cable TV works, life is good. And so you're one of the three things that is extremely important in terms of, how a community functions, so.
Well, we appreciate the relationship, and thank you for having us.
I wanted to add in our conversations, I know that it seems like they've had a very bad run of luck here in the last couple of months with a number of complaints. But there's roughly 8,000 homes in Vernon Hills, and it's 3 pickups a week, one for landscape waste, one for recycling, one for trash. That's over 1.2 million contacts per per year, or opportunities for complaints. And when you look at the number of complaints we actually receive, they're very, very few. And guys like Chris and his crew have really gotten to the bottom of them, got them resolved very, very quickly.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I will point out. Mr. Diaz's expertise. He understood the uniqueness of multifamily pickups, and the fact that there were questions about whether you take this or whether you take that, and you have 6 units all piling their garbage at the same place. How are we supposed to tell who's put out what, and if there's a problem? And we finally got it worked out that, you know, it would be an all pickup and everything like that. And again, that was another one of the things that he brought an understanding of what that situation was like as opposed to a single family pickup. So I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, Eddie and I, we're both homeowners as well, and we know what we expect from our services at our homes. And myself, as I was telling the staff the other day, I was actually a driver with Waste Management for 15 years. Well, not a driver that entire time, but when I was a driver, I was here in Vernon Hills. And you drive up and down the streets and you see New Century Townhomes and Grosse Pointe Village Townhomes, and just remember, so there's a sense of pride knowing that when you used to service the town, Eddie will tell you that I can be, again, I'm not a resident here, but because I provided service here as a trash driver back in the 1990s, he knows that there's a soft spot when it comes to Vernon Hills, that, hey, those are my old stomping grounds. Make sure we're taking care of those customers. So I do appreciate it. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other unfinished additional business? New business and communications. Manager Fleischauer.
Just wanted two things, one announcement and one request to the board. Centennial is moving ahead with their planning process, and they're planning on hosting a town hall meeting on Tuesday, June 18th. They're going to do it over at the Carson's building inside. It's going to be a large event. There'll be a lot more communication coming out about when, you know, what time and what the process is going to be in the format. But that is also one of our board meeting nights, and I think a number of the board members, and I know myself, would like to be there for this event. The mayor has asked if we could, with the board's permission, move the board meeting to the following night, Wednesday, June 19th, if that works for the board.
Does anybody have any objections to that?
I don't have a problem with it at all.
That works for everybody?
I've got a
Same
problem with the 19th. I can't make the 19th.
What about the 20th?
That's Friday? No, I'm sorry,
Thursday.
Thursday.
20th.
Thursday.
Yeah, the 17th or the 20th are fine. Monday or,
I can't make the 17th, but Thursday the 20th would work for me as well. I
What if you-
do either Wednesday or Thursday.
You can consider it,
Or we could move it, I guess,
25th.
to the 25th, the following Tuesday.
Well, when are we meeting in July? Then aren't we doing just one meeting in?
yeah, the 2nd. No,
I don't think it,
no, August.
There's
we're
2 in
doing-
July, 1 in August.
July, we're doing the 2nd and the 16th, I think.
Does anybody have a problem with the Thursday the 20th?
No, I can make
don't.
Thursday the 20th.
I don't have a problem with it. You could also consider if it were even the 17th. That was a question. But I'm fine with the 20th.
So should we go Thursday the 20th? Does that work for staff?
Or whatever works for you, works for us.
Trustee Oppenheim, Thursday the 20th, good with you?
As of right now, it looks okay for me.
Okay.
Okay, then for right now, unless we hear otherwise, we'll plan on the second meeting of June to be Thursday, June 20th. We'll get all that information out on our website, and like I said, as more information becomes available from meetings with Centennial, we'll post that information as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trustee Mark, or you had something else too, you said, or was that?
No, that was it. One was
Okay, got it.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
one
all
was
right.
Centennial Open House, the second was the change of the board meeting.
Trustee Markwart.
Yes, actually, Dave Brown is not here, but this week is recognition for Public Works. So I just wanted to bring it up due to the fact that I am a Public Works individual, to bring it up and thank our Vernon Hills Public Works for the hard work that they've done all year round. So that's my say.
Okay. Anybody else? One thing I have is this past weekend, the Hawthorne Middle South girls track team competed at state, and Emma Fricano ran 5th place in the 800 meters and 3rd place in the 1600 meter, and Rose Sheridan took 1st place in the state in the 800 meter and 2nd in the 1600, and just those two girls acquired enough points that their team finished 7th in the state. So we've already extended an invitation to them to come into the June 4th meeting for some recognition. So I will be talking to their coaches. Ms. Laura Guess and Ms. Laura Reiner were their coaches, and they were had a great weekend down there.
So I guess along those lines, Vernon Hills girls varsity soccer won their regional game the other day, and they're playing as we speak in the sectional game in Antioch. And I'm sorry I can't be there, but hopefully they're winning.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Are we going to? No closed session tonight? Okay. All right, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn the board meeting and go directly to Committee of the Whole.
So made.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
President Pro Tem Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka? And President Byrne?
Okay, motion carries. Okay, Committee of the Whole. Let me,
Item?
hang on, let me get there in a second, okay. First item is approval of the Committee of the Whole minutes from the April 16th, 2019 meeting.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any comments, corrections, concerns? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
President Pro Tem Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka? President Byrne?
Motion carries. Second item, request for outdoor dining and seating establishment permit for Shake Shack located at 864 East Town Line Road.
Thank you. I can give a brief summary for this. Shake Shack, I think as everyone is aware, is being constructed right now in Melody Farm. It's one of the outlots located adjacent to Town Line Road, just south of REI. The request for tonight is for an outdoor dining license that would include 10 tables with a seating capacity of 36 customers. Because they will be serving beer and wine, which was approved by the Liquor Commission earlier tonight, around the patio with self-closing, self-latching gate. The application and plan are attached to your packet. And tonight, if the COW feels the request is appropriate, staff should be directed to prepare a resolution approving the request subject to the conditions that are outlined in your packet.
Okay. Comments from the board? Pretty straightforward. You're aware of the fact that we don't allow graphics or logos or anything on the
We do.
umbrellas?
We have umbrellas, but they are not labeled. And I'll say, so there's, beer and wine is a very small component of our business. It's about less than 5%. The outdoor area is enclosed by a gate. There's one gate that does go, but most people will probably be going back in through the restaurant.
Okay.
Also wanted to point out that it is in our ordinances that there's no smoking allowed, not only inside, but also
There is,
outside as well.
yeah, I mean, thumbs up.
Good.
Yeah, no smoking within 15 feet of our restaurant is kind of technically.
So in Vernon Hills, it's now 25 feet from
Yes.
anywhere where food is served.
It's 1,000 from me, so.
Perfect.
Okay, anything else?
Motion to approve the request.
Second it.
Or direct staff to prepare the necessary ordinance to move forward with this request.
And what Jim said, I second it.
Thank you.
Okay, motion is second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
President Pro Tem Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka?
Motion carries. When do you anticipate opening?
Sorry, you weren't here, that's right.
So before July,
Because I
we're
wasn't
hoping.
here for, oh, you got that during. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we're hoping for around June 21st,
Okay.
but
Okay.
that's kind of our.
I was not here earlier for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
People will probably watch this part of the meeting more than they would the Liquor Commission anyway, so.
Probably.
All right, next item. Ramen House is at Shinchan, 701 North Milwaukee. Consideration of a report and recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Commission for the approval special use permit allowing a restaurant to serve alcoholic beverages.
Thank you. Again, another brief house. For those who are not aware of this restaurant, it's a quick service dine-in, dine-out restaurant with the concept of providing unique ramen noodle Japanese dishes. Included on their menu is cold sake and Japanese beer, thus the requirement for a special use permit. The Planning and Zoning Commission conducted a public hearing for this special use permit on May 1st. And at that meeting, the commission, after review, unanimously recommended approval of their request for the special use permit. That recommendation is subject to the conditions that are outlined in your packet and also subject to the plans that are attached to your packet. And with that, a representative of Ramen House is here to answer any questions that you may have.
And I want to correct, that's Ramen House Shinchan?
Shinchan.
Shinchan?
We currently operate our main store in Palatine, and if I had to give you a rough estimate, I'd say less than about 10% of our patrons take advantage of the liquor that we serve, so I don't imagine it'll differ at this location.
Okay.
The menu consists mostly of
It'll be Japanese authentic noodles. Occasionally we'll have specials that consist of rice bowls and changing up our menus slightly, but for the most part it'll just be noodles.
Can I ask, what does Shinchan mean?
It's actually the name of a town in Naruto, Japan, where I grew up. And it's also ironically where our chef grew up as well. So we just kind of combined and came up with the name.
Interesting. Any other comments or questions from the board?
motion to direct staff to prepare the necessary ordinances for the approval of this particular use.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Takaoka? President Byrne? Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
President Pro Tem Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Panda Express.
Okay. Fourth item, Panda Express, 290 Hawthorne Village Commons. Consideration of a report and recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval of a special use permit, approval of zoning and sign variations, approval of a site plan, landscape plan, and architectural elevations on the property commonly known as the Hawthorne Village Commons.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. And yeah, that's a lot of approvals. And just to note, there's one other approval that'll come at a later date, which is a subdivision approval to approve the creation of the lot that you see before you on the screen. and also for right-of-way dedication along Lakeview Parkway. That'll help set up the Lakeview Parkway expansion project that'll be taking place in the future. Panda Express, as you can see, would be it'd be a standalone building located in the parking lot of Hawthorne Village Commons. It would be just east of the main access drive off of Town Line Road. You'll notice the placement of it closer to Town Line Road. We were careful to make sure no sightline obstructions would be created by that placement. It also allows for more queuing for the drive-through facility, which would be a total of 9 cars. So staff believes that's adequate queuing. The Planning and Zoning Commission also made that determination as well. As far as the facade, that's what you're looking at here. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the excuse me, that's the west facade. Thank you. You'll notice it's got a faux stone at the base. There's EIFS material, also some faux wood, and those 3 rectangular panels are actually art panels that would be installed there. Staff has requested, and the Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended as part of their recommendation to you that art panels also be included on the north elevation, which is shown to the left. You also see the front and east elevations on this drawing as well. Getting back to the site plan, what you'll notice is, if people are familiar with Hawthorne Village Commons, as you are, it's diagonal parking right now. And as that shopping center sits, it's non-compliant in terms of parking by 62 spaces. Developed under a different zoning ordinance. Our current zoning ordinance is more restrictive. So what we've asked Panda Express to do is to maintain the number of parking spaces in the center, plus, in addition to that, add any that are required by the restaurant, which is 29. So what you see there is Panda Express, which complies with the zoning code, and then the shopping center, the nonconformity has not been increased. And frankly, just practically speaking, there's a lot of available parking along the Hobby Lobby there. So staff feels comfortable that we have enough parking provided with this development. You'll also notice that the angled parking has been changed to 90-degree parking, and that just west of the access drive off of Town Line Road, they're adding 21 additional spaces. This is what it was needed in order to create additional parking to accomplish what I just described to you. There's a quick look.
While you're on that parking picture, are the aisles wide enough for 90 degree as opposed, because the aisle does not need to be as wide for angle as it does for
yeah, that's correct.
90 degree, correct?
The aisles are 24 feet wide and are adequate to make a right-hand turn in.
Okay.
Yeah. And our Director of Public Works, Village Engineer, thoroughly reviewed this site, so he's comfortable with it. You'll notice the reshaping of all the landscape islands as well. It's going to necessitate a lot of new landscaping, planting of a lot of new trees. We think this is an improvement not only for Panda Express, but for the shopping center overall.
How does this traffic pattern differ from what we saw previously, or does it at all? The first time they came around?
Well, what they showed the first time around was angled parking, and it was just concept presentation, so it didn't show any changes in the existing parking fields. When they went into technical review and we were able to do more thorough analysis of parking, that's when we determined that they needed to make some changes so that we had enough parking for Panda Express and didn't increase the degree of nonconformity for the center. That's what ended up pushing this toward 90-degree parking.
But in terms of the stacking, I thought the original plan went all the way up, or went up further in terms of where the cars would drive through, or did that not change? To where they enter the drive-through area, was that one spot further north?
Yeah, the original concept plan was located a little farther north. So with it located more south, it allowed room for more queuing, and then also it assured that in any event, if the cars were to spill out anywhere into an aisle, it would be just the local parking aisle rather than a main access aisle that's, that's adjacent to the buildings in front.
I don't know.
So yeah, there's been quite a number of changes since concept
What are
presentation.
these, though? Well,
And there's no handicap parking designated on here. Will that be
They'll need to fully comply with that, and we'll
There
ensure
is,
that
sir.
happens.
Right there, you see the
just
hatched
those couple there?
areas?
Yeah, does that
That's
does that
handicap,
comply
yeah.
then? Okay.
that's the only thing I'm looking at. Is that it?
And then the right-of-way dedication along Lakeview Parkway, in working with the shopping center owner, they were willing to give us that dedication in advance of our project, so that works out well. I can keep it on this if you wish.
Does that turn lane come in? I'm noticing that line that goes across there. Is that the dedication, the right-of-way dedication line? Does it
doesn't
cut
show-
into it a little bit?
It doesn't show up well here. It's it obviously wouldn't be that portion of the property owned by Wendy's, so it'd be just north of Wendy's, going back until it intersects with the Holiday Inn property. When we come back with subdivision approval, that'll clearly delineate exactly where the new line will be drawn.
Okay, thank you.
I can show you quickly the new landscape plan. One of the things that was important to the Planning and Zoning Commission was on the on the west side of Panda Express, extending along the full frontage from the front of the building all the way back to the drive aisle. That's all going to be landscaped in there. So that'll be a nice amenity as you pull in. And that's all I have. So with that, I'll pass it on to the petitioner if you have any questions with him. Otherwise, for tonight, what staff is, if the board concurs with the Planning and Zoning's recommendation that staff be directed to prepare an ordinance that would approve the special use permit, approve certain variations, and I should review that with you, approve preliminary and final approval of the site and landscaping plans, and then preliminary and final approval of the architectural drawings. The variations real quickly are, for the zoning variations, they relate to setback. The parking fields would be 18 feet from the front property line along Town Line Road rather than 25 feet. That's for the existing parking. Also, a front yard setback for the building is needed, again, because we wanted the building pushed farther south to allow for enough queuing to the north. There's also a lot width and a lot area variation requested as part of this. For signs, there'll be variations to allow signs on the east and north side of the building where there is no frontage or access road, and also variations related to the size of the logos, which are greater than 4 square feet. So with that, again, staff is looking for a recommendation to prepare the ordinance in accordance with the Planning and Zoning's recommendation.
And Planning and Zoning voted unanimously on all but the variations, which was 5-1, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, how many motions do you need? One for each of the, or?
If I may, you can make one motion that recommends approval of the special use permit allowing a drive-through facility at a restaurant, granting certain zoning variations and sign code variations as outlined in the report and recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, preliminary and final approval of the site and landscaping plan, and finally, preliminary and final approval of the architectural elevations, all subject to the conditions that are outlined in your packet and also in compliance with the plans that are attached
And
to
the
your packet.
fifth item, variation from the building code allowing exterior wall finish materials?
Yes, thank you.
That's it?
Yes,
Yeah.
that as well. That is in the, yeah, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion, what he said?
So made.
Same with Michael said. I'll,
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or concerns?
Who's before us?
My name is Henry Clover. I'm the architect. And have been an architect with Panda for over 25 years. So it's an exception, my pleasure to be before you. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
I'm all in favor of, I probably have 12, 15, 20 meals a year. at Panda, so I'm all in favor of a drive-through. That'll make it probably 25 meals a year.
Good for you.
Trustee Markwart.
Time frame when you plan to start?
Panda will move as expeditiously as we can. Obviously, the first step is to get through this process before they actually release us to construction documents. We're also a little bit contingent on getting the plat approved. We're not in control of that, the developer is. But I believe it's been submitted, so that process will happen quickly because we can't get the permit until then. But I would imagine we will be released to get CDs done as quickly as possible. And Panda has a very big goal of getting a certain number of stores open every year, and this is one they target. And so we will move as quickly as we humanly can. So.
Will this be in addition to?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I was asked at the last meeting as well. So.
And the one in the mall, too. You'll have
Yes.
3 in town.
Yeah.
More than we have McDonald's.
That's actually how they got started, was in food courts in 1983, I think. So.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please. Oh, wait,
wait.
sorry.
So can you confirm, you said we're keeping the one in front of, or off of Milwaukee in front of Greg's Landing?
I don't know about that one. I'm sorry.
So which were the 3?
That was the
The
one I
person
was.
they asked was in the mall.
The mall.
In the,
Oh,
in
just
the
the mall.
Oasis. So.
Just the two.
Just the two.
Okay. But you don't know if that other one is going to stay, or?
I understood that the one in the mall was going to stay, and understood that the Oasis was going to stay. Those are the 2 I know about. So, but I'm not.
Yeah, we also have one on Milwaukee Avenue in
Yeah,
front of.
I don't know about that one. So.
Oh, the one that's, right.
But they don't tend to close stores. So.
Ah, okay.
So.
Do we really need 2 right next to each other? I mean, because I was under the impression that
Well, this is going
That-
to have a drive-through, so this is
Right.
going to make this much more desirable. But that's their business decision.
There were 4 Starbucks in the airport I came out of this morning. So.
Right.
yeah.
And for
I
the
guess
record, I never go to Starbucks. I hate their coffee. So,
That's their business decision too.
yep.
Right. I'm just not so excited to have 2 of the same restaurant within walking distance of each other in that regard for a drive-up place.
We won't know
So,
though, for sure.
With regard,
So
nobody,
unless-
nobody walks, sir.
right. Well, I mean, I understand that. But from our vantage point, I mean, if I go out one entrance, it's there, and if I go out the other entrance, it's rather see other restaurants. Unless there was a commitment to close the other one, then I'm not in favor of it.
I can't answer that question. So.
Okay. Anything else? No? All right, then a roll call, please.
No.
President Byrne? Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee President Pro Tem Cook?
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, next item of business, the consideration of a report and recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval of a zoning text amendment prohibiting the sale of dogs, cats, and rabbits in the village.
Thank you. Just a real quick, brief history. The board passed an ordinance back in February of this year that prohibited the sale of cats and dogs. Followed that up in March with an ordinance that included rabbits. And that was a standalone ordinance. The idea was that would immediately prohibit the sale of those animals in Vernon Hills. The board also at that time directed that this subject be forwarded to the Planning and Zoning Commission for consideration of a zoning text amendment that would also prohibit the sales. We have the standalone ordinance, but we don't have a place for it in the code quite yet. So the Planning and Zoning Commission conducted the public hearing on May 1st, and they considered proposed text language that pretty much mirrored the language that the board had previously approved. In their review, there was a lot of discussion regarding breeders and what if you're a licensed breeder, a legitimate breeder, and it seemed that some of the commissioners felt that that would be more acceptable, and ultimately there was a motion to approve the text amendment that failed. So there was not a motion to deny. So what's being forwarded to you tonight is no recommendation from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So for tonight's meeting, if the village board wanted the text amendment to the zoning code, then staff should be directed to prepare an ordinance in accordance with the language, the text language that's before you, in addition to any revisions you might make. And then we would go ahead and we'd prepare that ordinance in concert with the village attorney or any other direction the board wishes to give staff tonight. So you have some draft text language before you to consider. Any changes to that, we're all ears, or any other direction.
That's a poor pun.
So I don't have our previous ordinance in front of me, but it was my understanding that we made it pretty clear that this did not apply to breeders, and this
Yeah.
this was specifically for the retail sale of dog, cats, and
That
rats.
ordinance was strictly limited to retail, so it's a business regulation. It did not apply to breeders or
So-
anybody who happens to be doing it in their home just
Right.
as a hobby or what have you.
So was the Planning and Zoning Commission made aware of that fact?
No, actually, it was my understanding or misunderstanding that the ordinance that was previously passed prohibited the sale of cats and dogs in the village, whether it be through a store or through a breeder, so they weren't made aware of that.
Okay, so there was clearly miscommunication because
So the wording before us tonight allows for a licensed breeder or legitimate breeder or not?
this is purely definitions,
Yeah,
isn't it?
okay, so several points I think are worth making at this point. First of all, what's before you is a text amendment to the zoning code. Secondly, unlike other things or other situations which either the ZBA or the Plan Commission are called to vote on, the Illinois statute and our ordinances do not require an affirmative action or a negative action from the zone or from the Plan Commission for a text amendment. The only thing that's required is that you submit it to them for a public hearing. They're unlike, for example, a zoning variance for a specific parcel of land or the grant or denial of a special use permit. There is no requirement of findings per se by the Plan Commission, and there's no specific votes to override those as there are in those other situations.
So does this text amendment then eliminate
It does not.
breeders?
It does not prohibit Mrs. Jones from breeding her Labrador Retriever at her home and having a litter of puppies.
I mean, someone purchasing a dog from a licensed breeder in town
It does not.
does not,
It does not prohibit that.
okay.
This
So
is,
it is
as again,
strictly retail?
This is strictly definitional within the zoning code, because you have within a B1 district a special use potentially of a quote pet shop, although that term is not defined in the list of definitions under the zoning code. So one of the goals in doing a text amendment was to provide definitions that would be necessary in that subject area, particularly if somebody were going to be seeking a special use permit in the future for a quote-unquote pet shop, which is defined as a special use. But again, that term is not defined there. So we went through and defined, this does need one modification at the end in terms of the definition of a rabbit, but that's something that can easily be done. At this point, I think the board can do one of two things. You can go ahead and act on this, or if you wanted to perhaps give some deference, given the misunderstanding with the zoning board, you could kick it back to them, let them understand it, and then come back and have it referred again.
Yeah, and the misunderstanding was created on my part. Although the language is clear that breeders could still do it, But I could tell you, being at the meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission was clear in that they wanted legitimate breeders to be able to sell dogs, so.
Right.
th-
And
so
Well,
that's-
and I think
that's
that
what-
was
That was our intent.
That was
I think
our
their-
intent because
Their
But
message
apparently it
has been
wasn't
sent.
delineated clearly enough
In the language.
in what was provided to them, nor was the background that you're providing us right now. It would be my pleasure to go back then to the zoning board for another pass by them.
Well, and I think perhaps the term pet shop, as you read it, may need a little clarification to clear that up, because it says any individual or entity who's selling this kind of thing. Because as I said to Assistant Manager John Petrillo today, it was like, no, we didn't, our goal wasn't to just stop the sale of all dogs and that, because a child and their dog stopping that would be un-American. I mean, it's, it's,
Yeah, and
you know,
there
what
are
we
working
want to get
dogs
away
that-
from is the non-reputable.
So
Yeah.
you wanted to, in essence, to ban the retail sale?
Yes.
Or sale at retail, I should
Yes.
say.
Yes.
So the direction would be to, a motion directing the matter be forwarded back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We re-review the text language so that it's clearly articulated to the Planning and Zoning Commission that the intent is to allow breeders to still be able to breed and sell dogs.
Yes.
Yes,
Understood.
so made, motion so made.
Seconded.
And as you'd mentioned, we'll use the official taxonomic code of rabbits.
Yes, actually, the family is that
Is
of
the
a lepus. The
lepto-
family is the
Lepospira.
lepidae. And there are actually,
Thumper does.
and I learned a new word this evening, there are actually 8 different genera,
Oh.
which is the plural of genus.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Any other comments or questions?
So, in everyone's reading here, I don't know if you have it in front of you, what it says for pet shop, is it clear from you? This comes directly from the ordinance that we already have for the village code, not for the zoning code, correct? Is this verbatim from what we had in the other?
We will ensure that it's consistent. I can't answer your question right now. This came up about an hour before the meeting to my attention.
Okay.
The issue here, but we'll make sure that it's consistent and that it applies only to retail sales, people operating at a for-profit business entity, and does not exclude someone who breeds at their home.
Does someone who breeds at their home require any kind of licensure to do so?
Technically, they
can
probably
find out.
need
We got
a
a
business
neighbor that-
permit, although I don't know that that's something that's been,
I don't believe we regulate home businesses.
okay.
But they have to have some sort of license. That's why they're called licensed breeders.
Yeah.
Well,
imagine.
Well-
because people are going to want AKC lineage dogs or other animals, they're going to need to at least be registered with an organization that does the registrations, like the AKC. So there has to be
Find out the key.
some level of,
But that's licensure through a breeding organization, but I meant through the municipality.
Right.
Is there any kind of licensure that's?
The village
that's
doesn't
required?
have any kind of licensing for that
Okay.
type of use.
So that's why the zoning code wouldn't really apply to them anyway, because they're not applying for any kind of licensure.
Well,
Or-
there's licensing and there's zoning requirements. So there's pet shops, we don't want to allow them there. Pet shops are a special use permit in a B1 zone district, that's retail sale. Then in another area of the zoning code, section 4, it outlines requirements for permitted home occupations. And a small business that breeds dogs could potentially comply with that. And you could breed a small number of dogs out of your home and it doesn't create a nuisance for your neighbors, and that would be compliant. But the village doesn't license that type of use.
Again,
so that should then be part of this, is that should be referred to as an acceptable use for a at-home breeder or whatever.
make some kind of reference to that.
And I guess the other point we need to make very clear is we don't want brokers, because that's been one of the issues. It's not the family who has their own dog that they're breeding. It's someone who comes in and acquires dogs from elsewhere, such as large facilities, and then they sell them off. So I guess somehow we need to make that. Yeah, bred on premises and not. Right. So
And then just to be clear for the board, I think some of the misunderstanding was created by the fact that nowhere in our zoning code are breeders permitted. They're not permitted in a B1 as a permitted use or a special use. They're not in OR&D. They're not in nowhere are they indicated as permitted or a special use. If someone were to come forward with a request to be a breeder, we'd have them in front of the board for a concept presentation to see what the board thought and ask for direction to amend the code to somehow allow a breeder in whatever zone district we thought was appropriate. So, I mean, as it stands right now and as it stands for years, you can't be a breeder in Vernon Hills. So we can change the regulations as directed, really for the clarity of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then come back to you so they could have a clear recommendation and a clear understanding of what they're recommending to you. And I think that's a good thing to do.
Sounds good.
But breeders, just for, beyond people doing it out of their homes at a small scale, it's gonna take a board action before a breeder could come forward larger than a little, home occupation type of use.
we have no breeders in Vernon Hills that you're aware of, at least not legally.
Not that I'm aware of. It's interesting. Sometimes we become aware of them, and we are aware of a situation where someone was renting a home, and they were breeding dogs there. They no longer live there. The landlord now has possession of the home back. The interior of the house is not in good shape, and
as I understand, it wasn't even clear that they were actually breeding them. That was also possibly the broker situation from the information that I got from various parties, that they acquired some of these animals elsewhere, they kept them, and then because it wasn't necessarily from the same line of animal, it was a group of animals that they acquired from elsewhere. Is that your understanding so far?
I believe that may be correct. I can't speak with great accuracy about the lineage of where those dogs came. I can say, upon investigation, we found the dogs were in deplorable condition. They were not healthy. They've all been, relinquished to proper authorities. They've been weaned back to health, and they're in the process of being, legally transferred to families that are going to, care for them and adopt them. And the responsible party was charged to the extent they can, and that's still pending in court. I can't say that our investigation determined really the lineage of how those dogs got there.
Okay. So I don't know if instead of waiting for a breeder to come forward, potential breeder, I don't know if you want to.
We're not aware of any breeder that's
No,
coming
but
forward.
I'm saying maybe the board would consider even being proactive in terms of creating textual amendments to allow for that, and also clarify what the rules are and that sort of thing, to allow for good breeders. And I don't know if. No, I'm not. No, I'm breeders are fine. I just want it to be, if we don't want, but see, that way we can be proactive in defining what the breeder is versus the broker. And
So do we want to have staff look into that?
so,
or-
yeah, we can perhaps
I think
look into that.
Yeah, okay.
But let's take a look at this, and I think there's
Do this
a way to
first.
define this that
Okay.
necessarily excludes the other, so it won't be a problem.
Okay.
And what distinguishes the point of a breeder? Individual has a dog. There's particularly they mate because they want to have puppies, and they're technically not a breeder, but they plan on actually having these puppies, whether to sell or give away. I don't know. So what is technically
I think that-
term breeder if someone has dogs?
I think that one of the direction we got from the board was to take a look at Section 4 of the zoning code for permitted home occupations and clarify just that. So if you're, you're a homeowner and your dog has, I'm not sure how we're going to go about it, but has a limited number of puppies, and maybe that small scale would be considered appropriate as a permitted home occupation. That's something I heard direction that we should take a look at and come up with those regulations.
Yeah,
if
right
I'm
now, the
correct.
maximum is what, 3 dogs?
That's the number of dogs you can have.
So if each one had a litter each year, that would be a quantifiable number, is no more than 3 litters per year would be the maximum allowed. Again, I'm just throwing something out there as something to throw darts at.
Yeah, we're getting really,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
We're-
that's why we'll let
we're
we'll let
taking
you
the
look at it
nanny
and come
state
back.
to a
to it.
whole
Yeah.
new level here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the home occupation, and we'll take a look at it
Yeah.
for you. But yeah, with the breeder thing, my recommendation is if someone comes forward, let's take a look and see what they're proposing, and let's react to that. We'll put them in front of the board. The board could look at that, and because I think what a breeder in one location in the village might be appropriate, might not be as appropriate in another location. So if one happens to come forward, I think that would be the time to take a look at it.
Okay.
That's fair.
All right. If there are no other comments or questions, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
President Pro Tem Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka? President Byrne? Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Motion carries. There's no other business for committee of the whole, correct? All right. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please. Voice vote's fine? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.
Happy Memorial Day to one and all.
Drive safe. Yeah, there was snow up north. There you go.